I'll introduce the DNR employees that are with us tonight and are going to be helping. We have Matt Esser, who is our deer biologist and based out of Black River Falls. He handles the western side of the state. We have we had, but we lost Eric Canania. I'm not sure if Eric will join again, but Eric is our southern Wisconsin deer biologist based out of Dodgeville. We have Wes Ellerson, who is our big game assistant in Madison, with us tonight as well. And I think that covers the department staff that are here. And again, I coordinate the DMAP program. And again, appreciate your participation this evening. I'm going to take you through a couple slides here that'll help me describe the program a little bit more. I'm going to share my screen here and let's see. How's that look, Matt? Can you see it okay?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay. Okay, so again, welcome tonight. Wisconsin's Deer Management Assistant Program. We plan on covering a little bit about what is DMAP. For some of you are maybe enrolled in the program. Some of you have probably heard about it for the first time, and this caught your interest. And so we'll tell you a little bit about the program. We'll hear from some cooperators, and then we'll get to a question and answer session. And I hope to have this wrapped up by 8:30. That's usually a long enough time for people to be on a Zoom call, but certainly if there's good discussion going, we can keep going. At some point we'll have to shut down for the night, but we'll see how it goes. But we're kind of shooting for 8:30 as a close time. All right, so what is Wisconsin's DMAP program? And it's best summarized by our tagline, a partnership for healthy deer and healthy habitat. This program was rolled out by the DNR in 2014 and with kind of a pilot season. And after that, the interest in enrollment levels have really taken off. And so right now we have roughly 1,400 landowners participating in the program all across the state. But a partnership for healthy deer and healthy habitat, when the advertisement for this workshop went out, I got a couple phone calls and emails from people saying, we got too many deer. We don't need more deer on our properties. And I thought that probably deserved a little bit of explaining as the announcement that went out was talking about attracting deer to your property. But the partnership here is really between the landowner and the DNR as managers of our natural resources. And healthy deer and healthy habitat is a common goal that we all share. And so what we mean by that is finding the balance between what's available for habitat standpoint on your property and how many deer that can support. And so certainly in some cases, too many deer is not a good thing, especially when you're thinking about disease concerns or forest regeneration. And so, this program is not promoting unnaturally high deer numbers on properties. However, there's certainly situations you might find yourself in where you maybe recently purchased a piece of property or just never had the time to really do much habitat management on it. And there is that opportunity to provide healthy habitat, improve the habitat, maybe attract more deer and other wildlife to it as well. So this program really works with landowners to help find that balance and works with landowners to help address their objectives for their property as well. So I wanted to mention that right off the bat that there are there's a healthy balance of what your habitat can support when it comes to any kind of wildlife species. The DMAP program, in working with landowners to improve their habitat, it benefits all wildlife. And so much of the habitat work that you do on your properties is, if your intended target species is deer, oftentimes it's going to benefit other species as well, from forest songbirds to turkeys, grouse, whatever your additional interest might be. Habitat work does benefit all wildlife, and we kicked around the idea from the very beginning. Maybe we shouldn't even have deer in the title of this, because it really is improving habitat for all wildlife. But we also know that landowners here in Wisconsin, many of them own recreational property, with the intended use of it is hunting, and deer are a big deal in Wisconsin, as they should be. And so we felt that this program would be attractive to landowners because it says deer. And if you enroll in the program, you're going to learn a whole lot about deer, but you're going to learn a whole lot about other wildlife as well. And we've heard this from landowners that meet with our biologists and foresters and walk their property. And it's just a real wealth of information that they learn on those site visits, from not only what wildlife is using their property, but also the various tree species, and in some cases invasive species that are found on their property as well. So really a all around program to help landowners. If you enroll in DMAP, there's a number of resources and reports that we provide. Resources, you enroll, you get create a DMAP account, and there's the resources page there, and there's videos and publications and presentations, all kinds of information on all kinds of variety of topics that some of them may or may not interest you, but we try to find ones that we think landowners would really appreciate seeing. In addition, every couple of weeks, I send a cooperator update with, again, sharing information and sharing opportunities to get involved in various projects. We provide reports in the shape of management plans for properties that enroll 160 acres or more. Also annual harvest reports. If you collect, there's an opportunity to collect data on the deer that you harvest, more for your benefit, but it's a nice kind of tracking mechanism or journal to have of your deer harvests and wildlife observations that you're seeing on your property. And networking, we all stand to learn something anytime we get together, and DMAP allows us to connect DMAP cooperators in the same county. In addition, when we're able to meet in person, ideally, that's the way to do it. There's a great opportunity to network with other cooperators at the workshops that we provide around the state, which often include a property tour and hands-on activities that we enjoy doing and learning from others about. So DMAP cooperatives, I mentioned 160 acres, and obviously not everybody owns 160 acres. We do set that limit for site visits and management plans simply because we don't have enough staff to necessarily meet with everyone. However, if you don't own 160 acres, you can work with your neighbors to combine acreage and total the 160 acres, as long as the properties are within a half mile of each other. So there's a lot of benefits to that. And we've heard it from the beginning with DMAP. And in fact, I think we're going to hear from James Lanier later, but James, I remember commenting that he met his neighbors for the first time because he approached them about enrolling in this program. So it's a great opportunity to get to know your neighbors and work together on habitat management. I think we can all appreciate, if we're trying to control the invasive species on our property, and on the other side of the fence line, nothing is happening, you're going to be challenged in the future to keep those invasives. So working together on habitat is really important, and working together on deer management. If your objectives in your area, on your property, are to attempt to reduce the deer population, it doesn't do you much good if your neighbors next door are going in the opposite direction. And so it's just an example, but the cooperatives are a nice way to get people talking And there's been some research out of Michigan that suggests that hunters that are involved in a cooperative seem to be more satisfied with their hunting experiences as well. And I think of it almost as maybe an alternative to the northern Wisconsin deer camps that we've had in the past. So we can help coordinate if you're interested in setting up a DMAP cooperative. Ideally, we have, say, 2 or 3 landowners that are really engaged and want to do this. This isn't something that the department staff are going to carry the load on, but if you can get a couple landowners that are really engaged, we will certainly be there to help you along and provide whatever services we can to those cooperatives. I know Matt Esser, who I've introduced before, meets with cooperatives in his area. They age deer, they collect CWD samples, probably share a bowl of chili or a drink or something, a soda, of course. But engaging in that social activity is really important, and we'd love to do that for you. And lastly, enrollment levels and deadlines. I direct you to the DMAP webpage for more of those kind of details. I didn't want to get into that kind of technical information right here. There are 3 levels to the program, various benefits at different levels, and there is an enrollment fee as well. But I would suggest you go look at the DMAP webpage for that information. One important deadline that I wanted to share with you: March 1st is the deadline. You can enroll in the program at any time, but March 1st is the deadline that we'd like those landowners or cooperatives enrolling 160 acres or more to enroll. And that allows us to line up our workload for the year and prepare, make assignments, and make sure we can cover the site visits for those that may be eligible to receive them. So again, if you want to be eligible for a site visit this year and you can enroll 160 acres or more, please do so by March 1st. And you can enroll online right on the DMAP webpage. Pretty straightforward. There's a button there. You'll create a user ID and password, provide some pretty basic information about your property, and click submit, and you should be able to get in. So and there you go. It's right on the DNR webpage, and just search for DMAP, and you should be able to find it there. All right, this is the last slide I just wanted to show you in case you're interested about enrollment levels and where people are enrolling in DMAP. And you can see as of last year, we have just over 340,000 acres enrolled in the program. I know the text might be small for some of you to read, but essentially the darker the color, the more acreage that's enrolled in the program. And so you can see a strong interest in northern Wisconsin and actually western Wisconsin there too, with thanks to a lot of the work that Matt's doing and James Lanier and others in that area to promote the program. So before I introduce a couple of our cooperators. Oh shoot, I forgot what I was going to say, but satisfaction. I was going to talk about satisfaction. From the very beginning of this program, we've been monitoring cooperator satisfaction. And again, we started this in 2014, didn't quite know how it would be received. And so we stayed in close contact with those cooperators from the beginning. Hey, what do you like? What don't you like? What can we do better? What are you getting that you don't need, and what are we not giving you that you do need? And so we've adjusted and learned over the years. But we learned early on that, our satisfaction level with the program were, 75 to 80%, very, very satisfied or satisfied with the program. And so we were pretty pleased with that. And it's been a great experience to be a part of from the beginning. And as I mentioned, then networking and getting to know people when we go to workshops around the state, it's, you know, handshakes and smiles because you're getting to reconnect with friends that you've seen in the past at similar workshops. And so it's really just a kind of a neat network that you're joining with like-minded, conservation-minded people that want to be a part of something. So again, check out the webpage, lots more information, videos, there's examples of the resources that are available as well. And, you know, we want to, as, you know, department, we want to work with landowners to improve their property for wildlife and do good things for the wildlife that we all enjoy. And you're a big part of that. And so we'd love to work with you. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen there. Matt, are there any questions at all since I've been talking in the chat that we should address right here, or maybe specific to the DMAP information that I was sharing?
Sorry, I've been focusing on the chat, but there's been people asking questions about the levels and acreages.
Okay.
And they've been, you know, if you're going to get into that a little bit later, or if you've already covered it, like there's a couple of questions. They have 155 acres, or one person says they have 159 and some tenths of an acre. Wiggle room, that sort of thing. The questions, a couple things have come up.
Okay. Yeah, I can address that one real quick, and then we'll introduce our cooperators. Yeah, 160 acres. Of course, you have to pick a number. It's a typically people own acreage in 40s, the size of 40s, or at least a round number. And so why don't, if you have a unique situation, why don't you reach out to me directly, and we can see, you know, we typically do hold hard and fast to the 160 because we have to draw a line somewhere. But there are some unique cases that maybe we could work through. So I would just ask you to reach out to me directly by email or give me a call after the meeting. So. Okay, well, why don't we move on to introducing our DMAP cooperators? And again, we thought maybe we'd take about 15 minutes or so to do this, and then we can maybe open it up for questions. So in our pre-meeting discussion, we learned there is a little bit of a delay, at least with Steve Nguyen. So maybe Steve, we'll start with you first, and we'll make sure that we don't talk over you with the delay that we were experiencing before. So Steve, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, Bob. I'm up in the North Woods right now, as a matter of fact, and the squirrels that run the generator have been in hibernation for quite some time. And you know, I don't know, especially on a night like tonight, I don't think they'll be coming out at all. So there might be a little bit of delay, but we'll kind of work with it. My wife, Christy, and I actually live in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, in the Door County area. And in fact, I do have 40 acres over there that I hunt quite a bit. But several years ago, we were looking for a specific property of decent size to begin to create a program we've called Wheelchair Whitetails, which is a program that offers hunts to people with disabilities, specifically geared towards people in wheelchairs, which, you know, creates greater challenges. So long story short, in 2016, we bought 500, well, it's actually 500, a little over 500 acres, 529 acres in Florence County, Wisconsin, which according to your map a few minutes ago, is right on the border of Wisconsin and Upper Michigan, right south of Iron Mountain, Michigan, and just a little west of Niagara, if that helps, about 90 miles northwest or north of Green Bay. So we're Northwoods, though. It's you look around out here, and it's what you typically think of in terms of northern Wisconsin. A lot of hardwood, a lot of cedar, and so on. So that's the area that we have. But we bought it again specifically to be able to provide hunts to our wheelchair-bound participants that come from around the country. So we've been working on that. We're heading into our 5th season right now. And part of the reason that I did that was certainly got guests coming from, especially long distances, even North Carolina, Vancouver Island, British Columbia. I want them to have a quality experience when they get here. They don't pay for the hunts. We provide that at no charge. These are crossbow hunts. happening from September into early November, but I want them to have a quality experience nonetheless. That's the whole point. And frankly, you know, the why is I'm not a biologist, deer biologist. I'm not a forester. And to be able to get that kind of consulting help from professionals via the DNR, the opportunity is just something I didn't think I could pass up, frankly. So that's one of the primary reasons. But another reason is accountability. We've had a plan in place, a DMAP plan that Tom Carlson and I from the DNR put in place in fall of 2019. And there's a lot of elements to it. I've got 12 things on my list of right there. I just kind of have some notes next to me that we've been working on over the last couple of years. And it's a little bit of accountability. You know, I mean, no one's, you know, Tom's not going to come knocking on my door asking me if I've finished the most recent recommendation, but just to be able to have a plan and to be able to refer to it from time to time, at least I am able to hold myself a little bit more accountable. And then, you know, talk about right sizing the deer herd. Believe it or not, we're in northern Wisconsin. We've got too many deer. Our woods doesn't have enough browse to be able to sustain the population that currently exists. So we've actually been trying the last several years to reduce the herd. And one of the things that the DMAP plan does in an effort to right size is they can offer landowner tags. We don't get antlerless tags in Florence County, or haven't for quite a few years. You get a few bonus tags are quoted, but we don't generally get those tags, and be able to access them through the DMAP program has been really helpful. So those are some of the primary reasons that we've gotten involved, or I've gotten involved on.
Yeah, great, Steve, and thanks. You know, you brought up a benefit that I hadn't covered on the first slide, but I'm glad you did, and it does go along with that, balancing the deer herd with the habitats available, and as Steve mentioned, you know, if you get into doing some habitat work at whatever level you do, the deer respond and the wildlife responds. It might not be immediate, but over time they do. And with that becomes a responsibility then to manage the deer herd as well. And Steve mentioned the DMAP tags. Those are elder property specific tags, and you're eligible for those based on your property goals and objectives, what the biologist and forester see on their site visit with you, and on that site visit they do an assessment for deer browse impacts that are on the property as well. And it's interesting. My experience with that has been, at first the landowners are kind of standing to the side, and forester and biologists are doing their thing, and it's like, no, you come on over, you're helping. And so we're working with the landowner then to identify browse, and they you know, get pretty engaged with that. And by the end of the site visit, the landowner is pointing out the browse to us. And so it's a really neat experience that way. And the other thing that we do in the right situations, we can put up deer exclosures, and these are just, what are they, 15-foot square exclosures. And it's really neat to see the impacts that deer are or are not having on your property. And again, you know, we put them in spots where the landowner is going to walk by them, maybe on their way to their tree stand or going for a walk in the woods or whatever, that they can kind of take note and keep an eye on it. So pretty neat stuff there. So Steve, anything else you want to add? Otherwise we can move on.
No, we, in fact, you mentioned the exclosures. Tom and I just put up 2 exclosures in the fall. I'm really anxious. We also had some heavy cutting done this last year as part of our MFL program. And so I'm anxious to see what we can, you know, how the browse will improve in the years ahead.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Steve. Why don't we move on to Christina? Christina Kukowski, it looks like you're muted right now. There you are. Go ahead, Christina.
All right, thanks, Bob. So my name is Christina, like Bob said, and I actually own just under about 55 acres over in Iowa County with my other half. So just like everyone else, a lot of people in Wisconsin, you know, we wanted to own our own back 40, something that we would build a house and pretty much be there forever and manage on our own. So I've been enrolled in DMAP for only about a year and a half. And we're in the very beginning stages of our journey with the program. So I think I can provide kind of that perspective. Really what really drew us to DMAP was just the resources that we could have. Being new to this, being a new landowner, where I was just really trying to find any resources that we could have to help us try to plan what we were going to do with this little chunk that we had. So being able to get that information straight from the DNR was really appealing. And so far in the planning stages where we're at, the biggest help that I've run into is, like Bob mentioned, is the DMAP portal. So whenever I'm looking for any information, what I do is I hop on there and you can look at the resources, and there are tons of links to anything like videos, YouTube videos, if you are more visual learner, or anything regarding forest management, you know, deer management, invasive species. You can find your soil information in your area, links to finding old pictures of your property, anything like that. So that's been really helpful in trying to decide how we want to move forward with management on our little chunk of piece of property. And really the other thing is really the open line of communication between your deer biologist and us. I've talked a lot with Eric, shout out Eric, and we met him through the program, and that's been great to just kind of bounce ideas off of and everything. And once we get back, unfortunately, when I started in the program, COVID hit and the workshops were shut down. But one thing that I'm really excited and I think will be really beneficial once we can get up and do things in person again is those in-person workshops, being able to go to other cooperators' properties and see what has been implemented, or learn about something like financial benefits that could help, you know, reduce tax costs in the future. So, so far, having those resources at my fingertips has been really great.
Great. And thanks, Christina. I like hearing each of you share your thoughts because it allows me to cue in on things that you bring up. And one of them that Christina mentioned are the workshops. And we had big plans last year to I think to do 5 or 6 workshops. We were going to actually host one right on Christina's property there. And because of COVID, unfortunately, it didn't work out. But those workshops are, you know, I think some people come for the free lunch, which is great. We love seeing you. But you get a chance to network with other cooperators. You get to, we did a workshop. We had it planned for last year, but we did one the year before, just on cost share programs for landowners. And we had representatives from almost all the cost share programs in the state in one room. And they gave their presentations, and then there was time to mingle and talk at the various booths. And I'm not aware of many other opportunities where you can have to talk right in a row to the leaders of the various cost share programs. So that was a really neat one that it might be a standard workshop. It's not very exciting, I'll be honest with you, but very informative to landowners. We've done workshops on predators in northern Wisconsin, right? We'd like to talk about predators. They're a fabric of the North for sure. And we had workshops dedicated exclusively to predators. I think in the afternoon for an activity, we had some trapping demonstrations that were going on with assistance from the Wisconsin Trappers Association. So again, trying to blend some really neat information with some hands-on activities. Of course, we tour properties as well. And in DMAP, there's some pretty unique properties that are enrolled. I know Matt Esser led one at the Badger ammunition plant, right? I might not be getting that right, Matt. Is that right?
Badger Mining Corporation.
Mining. Thank you. you know, 4,000 acres in Jackson County that is pretty intensively managed for, enrolled in DMAP and pretty intensively managed for wildlife. How cool is that? And of course, we've been on a lot of DMAP cooperators properties as well. We've held sessions in pole sheds, barns, houses, cabins, you name it. And so it's always kind of a fun experience, and even some of the hands-on experience that we've done. I know one year we did a non-toxic ammunition demonstration, and we had DMAP cooperators bring your favorite hunting load and your favorite deer rifle, and we met at a range and shot lead ammunition and then shot some non-toxic ammunition and looked at performance. So cool stuff. I don't know. I find it interesting, and I know the people that participated in that did as well. So Christina, any closing comments you want to make?
Sorry to get myself off mute. No, I think that's pretty much it. You know, I think, Bob, you had also introduced us to someone else in Iowa County, and being able to, you know,
Right.
meet other people in your area, so you can learn about, you know, things that they have done that they regret and things that have worked out for them. So
Yeah.
that's also really great to be able to meet
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah, that's a good point. I forgot that, Christina. So Christina, as she mentioned, is new to land ownership. Lucky for her, new to owning a property. And when she enrolled in the program, I was able to connect her with some DMAP cooperators about, I don't know, 20 minutes away from her that had a ton of experience with land management and were very open to sharing their thoughts and mistakes and lessons learned, and very welcoming on their property. And they've hosted workshops in the past a couple times. And so anyway, yeah, it was nice that Christina was able to connect with them. And I'm sure if she's got questions, is certainly going to have a wide variety of people to ask. So, okay. Why don't we got James Lanier? I see it. I see you on there, James. You're up next. Why don't you take it away?
Okay, how's my audio? Is it pretty good?
If you can get closer to your mic, that would be good.
All right, how about now?
It's better.
Better? Okay.
Yep, that's good.
I'll speak up.
There you go.
Yes, we have a family farm in Monroe County. We've got 360 acres and 4 different parcels. The family farm has been in our family for over 130, 140 years now. My mom, who is 88, she still lives on the family farm, and she has gained probably as much out of me being a member, us being a member of DMAP, than I have. I first heard about the DMAP program from, I guess it would have been Dr. Kroll when he was doing the deer study here, talking about DMAP in other states, and I looked it up to see what it was all about. And then I think I either got a email from the Department of Natural Resources or saw it somewhere that they're opening up the program to us, and that was 2014, and I jumped right on it because it really, I've always been interested in deer habitat, wildlife habitat, management, and it just really, for me, when I read the initial press release, it just fit the bill for everything that I really wanted to accomplish. So we signed up right away. We got a property tour. That was 2014. We got a property tour with a biologist, DNR biologist out of La Crosse, and then our forester out of Toma. And it was really that both of those, the property tour and then the management plan that they wrote up for us, was really eye-opening. It talked about invasive species that we had that I did not know we had. I know we had some, but I didn't know how bad it was. It wasn't terrible, but it needed work. We did a browse study to see how it actually looked. You know, let the woods talk to you, let the forest talk to you to tell you if you do have a deer problem. And at the time we didn't. We actually tested rather low in deer numbers, kind of medium deer numbers they'd figured, which was nice at the time. And sitting down with the biologist at the time, he'd ask a lot of questions and things. And 2 of the questions he asked me were, part of it were, would you like to see more deer when you hunt? Sure, would like to see more deer. would you like to see bigger bucks? And I, sure, we'd like to see bigger bucks. And among a bunch of other questions, but those two really stuck with me because at the end of it, he said, well, you want to see more deer and you want to see bigger bucks. He said, that's the easiest out of everything that you want. And I said, that's the easiest? And he said, yeah, lay off the trigger. And it just kind of opened up my eyes. Lay off the trigger. And he said, talk to your neighbors. And so I started doing that. Got a couple neighbors involved with the DMAP, and we've got, right now we're in one level 3 DMAP, and the other one's a level 2 DMAP. And we've had workshops on the neighbors' properties, some just individual, our landowners, local landowners, where we had DMAP members and non-DMAP members. And as Bob touched on earlier, one of the biggest benefits is meeting neighbors that we never would have met without talking to them about the DMAP. Huge. And my mom, like I said earlier, she's met neighbors that she did not know. People moved in and out of the area since she's lived at the property, and it's just been such a great experience for her as well. The other thing, we learned a lot about our woods, learned a lot about the deer, and the cool thing I think that really was eye-opening for me as well is that we let science tell us what's going on. I mean, let's face it, with social media, you can go on Facebook and there's habitat managers groups, there's food plot groups, there's timber stand improve. You can find everything, and you read that stuff, and some of it is bad information. DMAP, you can get a hold of Matt, Kurt, Eric, Bob. Get on the website. They've got a lot of information on there, periodicals you can read, and let the science guide your decision. That's been a real big one for me. Instead of listening to somebody on a forum or something somewhere that you could spray and kill all your stuff that you want to save. Let the science tell you. Let experience, especially the workshop. You let not only what the topics are, but you meet people that got a lot of experience in doing what you want to do and can guide you as well. So there's so much there, and it's just been a great learning experience for me and my whole family, really. So I can keep going, Bob.
No, that's great, James. You pointed out a couple things that maybe I'll highlight as well. And yeah, I remember, James, you're probably one of the first people to sign up for DMAP way back in 2014. And we actually did a broadcast out on your farm with Dan Small and others for Outdoor Wisconsin to promote the program, and had lunch with your mom, and it was a really neat experience. So I remember that. But one of the things that James highlighted, and I think is really important, is the relationship that you can develop with your local wildlife biologist and forester. It's great when you know them by name and by first name, and you can reach out to them at any time and ask them questions. And that's a nice thing that DMAP does. And as James mentioned, there's a lot of information out there, whether it's online, some of it's good, some of it's bad, but even the rumor mill in Wisconsin here on different, sightings and occurrences that are happening in the area. We're all exposed to that. And it sure is nice to be able to call up your local biologist and say, hey, Joe said there's a cougar, a half mile down the road. Is that true? And usually they're pretty tuned into what's going on. So again, it's a great opportunity to have some direct contact with your local DNR staff that are working in your area. So it's a really good benefit there, James, too. Thanks for bringing that up. All right. Well, James was the last cooperator that we had scheduled to speak. So maybe let's move into the question and answer session here. Again, I'd like to keep the questions focused on the DMAP program, and let's address those first. And if we run out of we run out of questions, I have a couple more things that I can share with you. But I want to make sure that we have time to answer questions as well. So again, raise your hand using
You
the
can't hear. Speak up. No, I don't.
all right. If you use that raise your hand button, you go to participants, and then next to your name, I think you should have raise hand. Or you can type it in the chat. And Matt Esser, if you wouldn't mind, sharing questions that are coming out of the chat. So let's go that route first. And if we run out, we'll let people shout out their questions. What do you got, Matt? Anything in the chat?
A couple, we've been pointing folks to our website, but they've been asking about the easiest and best ways to sign up for the program.
Okay. Yeah, like Matt said, the website, and here I can, well, here, I'll test my computer skills here and share my screen. Where was I? This one, I guess.
And then if you're there, folks have been asking about the levels too, Bob.
Okay, let me end my show here. I did have the DMAPs. Okay, hang on. Let me share screen. Okay, are you seeing it now, Matt?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is the DMAP webpage. Again, go to the DNR homepage, type in DMAP, a little bit about the program. Log in. If you're an existing cooperator, you can log in there. And if you want to apply, just click that button, apply now. There's application instructions here as well. So if you run into a dead end, make sure you check the instructions first before you reach out to myself or Wes Ellerson. Hang on, I got emails coming in here. Move some things around. If you have questions, over here on the right hand side is where you'll get Wes, and he can help you out, or I can as well. We have a little DMAP video here on the screen you can check out. Here are the details. Again, the levels, the various levels you can check out as well. That enrollment fee that I mentioned is $75 for 3 years. So if you think about it, $25 a year. At the higher acreage, it's $150 every 3 years. And the way we use that, some of that money, I mentioned the deer exclosures that we provide. We would provide all the materials for that and help install those. We have property signs that we give to landowners that enroll as well. So we try to put that money really back into the program to benefit others. Program offerings, you can see at the various levels there. Let me get this out of the way. A little bit about cooperatives. We've talked about that. We went over the map already. And then at the bottom here is an example of DMAP resources. You can see we got a little video there on planting apple trees, couple PDFs, direct seeding for wildlife, understanding the impacts of deer, northeastern forest is kind of a neat publication. Aging deer by examining its jawbone. Again, part of that data collection aspect of the program is determining the age of deer, and biologists can help you with that and show you how to do it. There's nothing magical about it. It comes with experience, but kind of interesting to learn. If you click across the tiles here on the bottom, application information here from DMAP Cooperators, there's a little video there of an interview we did with a DMAP participant in Price County. Some FAQs. We have a DMAP advisory committee that helps the department with the program. But yeah, so that's kind of the webpage. I don't want to spend too much time there, but that's where you can apply. And again, you'll create a user ID and a password. And then I think the only other real, maybe more technical information you need to know is the town range and section of where your property is located. Not many people know that right off the top of their head, but that helps us get a general area so we know where you're located in the county. But other than that, I think the rest of it you could probably answer just, right off the top of your head. So any other questions, Matt?
Sorry, I was working on some questions here. Let's see here.
Otherwise I can call on some hands here.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay. Yeah. I'll let you catch up then, Matt, with some questions from the chat. We'll come back to you. Let me see. Oh, shoot. Things are bouncing.
We've got two hands raised. I believe the first one that went up, the name says iPad, but it's a gentleman in a red shirt and a brown vest. Why don't you go ahead?
We see ya.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
So my question is, once you sign up and you enter into the program, what is your commitment going forward? What happens if you decide, it's not for me after a year or something? Are there ongoing commitments, or, tell me a little bit about that. And I guess I would like to know if any members cooperators have signed up and have backed out for whatever reason.
Sure. Yep. I can answer that. So when you enroll, as I mentioned, you enroll for 3 years. And you pay, if depending on what level you pay, if you don't want to pay an enrollment fee, you can enroll at level 1. Any acreage can enroll at level 1 at no cost. So that's great. But at level two, if you have 160 that you own or with a cooperative, it's $75. Of course, you get those additional benefits of a site visit and a plan for your property. And so we don't ask for that enrollment fee until we're going to get you a site visit. We don't want you paying for something that you're not getting, in that year. So you pay the enrollment fee. You can withdraw from the program at any time. And so there's really no strings attached to this program. We're going to write a management plan for you. It'll have recommendations. It'll give you some things that you could do on your property. You don't have to complete them. Of course, we hope that you do. And most landowners are, if you're taking the time to meet with us, you're motivated to do it. And so there's no requirements that way. And if you want to get out of the program at any time for whatever reason, you can just, let me know and we'll remove you from the program. One thing we do after 3 years, say you enrolled at level 2, you got the visit, the plan, you feeling good. Maybe the antlerless tags don't mean that much to you. When your enrollment is up, you don't have to re-enroll at level 2 again. You can enroll at level 1 and just kind of stay tuned in, and you lose, I guess the benefits of the tags you would lose. But if that's not a big deal, then many people do that as well. And they just kind of still stay engaged with the program, just at a different level. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Have you had any cooperators that have withdrawn?
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna, I can probably count on one hand the numbers that had some level of dissatisfaction with the program and asked to be removed. But it doesn't happen very often. And again, very willing to do that. We're not holding you to anything. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. What about Barth? So you got your hand up.
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. I just have I only own 40 acres. I'm also in the Sturgeon Bay area, but I have some property that has a navigable stream going through it. And with all this ash borer killing off all the trees, I'm getting some invasive species growing in there. Is this a program that also gives you information on how to control, I think it's called buckthorn, that type of stuff, or how to handle a navigable stream, and or is that something separate?
Well, maybe I'll defer to one of the other biologists on the call, because maybe you're getting tired of hearing me talk so much. Matt, is that something you want to handle?
Sure. Could you repeat the question?
He was asking about managing invasive species, and is this a program that could help with that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As James was alluding to, on the site visit, we point out everything that you can imagine. Our eyes are trained to see these things, and we point out invasive species that maybe you do know or maybe you might not, and things that could start to take over your woods. We try to identify which ones are going to be the ones that you need to get after right away, the most aggressive, and we work with you on management of that stuff. Rome wasn't built in a day, and you're not going to get all the invasives out of your property in a day. And we know it's work, and we know it's hard. And we give you I'd say we lay you the groundwork. We give you like a roadmap on things that you can do for your property, and you lay it out, and you kind of accomplish it as you see fit and as you have time. I always tell the story of, when I was younger, I wanted to plant 3,000 trees. I went out and planted as many as I could in one day. Guess what? I woke up the next day and I didn't want to plant another tree. So just pace yourself and get after the stuff that you can. And you can only do what you can do. I hope that answers your question.
Well, it partially does, I guess. And thank you for that. But with only 40 acres, you don't get a site visit. I'm not sure I know to describe this invasive species as correctly. How do we get a site visit if we want one with only 40 acres?
Yep. So we always advise folks, we're all busy on our schedules, pack up pretty quick. And I always tell folks, if you're a level 1 enrollee, work with your local deer biologist, whether it's me, Kurt, or Eric, and work with us. And we say, hey, if you can get a few people to attend that day with us and walk the property, family members, neighbors, that sort of thing, and give us more ears to bend, the better it's going to be for us, because we're reaching more folks, and the better it's going to be for you. So as long as it's good for everybody, as far as time well spent, and it works in our schedules, we'd love to come out and see you. And I can't speak for Eric or Kurt, but we try to make it work as much as we can. I can't guarantee anything, but we'll do the best that we can.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for that, Matt. You reminded me that that same question has come up in the past. I don't have 160. I want a site visit, and as I mentioned, we do have to put a limit just to provide good customer service in a timely manner, and to make sure we have enough staff to do it. However, to try to address that, as Matt mentioned, they'll schedule a site visit with you if you do have less than 160, but we'd like you to kind of draw a crowd. And that way, and like Matt mentioned, if it's your hunting buddies, your friends, neighbors, relatives, whatever, that way when Matt or any of us show up, there's a bit of a crowd there that we can help inform, but also help learn more about DMAP, and maybe they sign up for the program. So if you can draw a crowd, that would be great. Who's next, Wes? Let's see here. Or I'll just call on. It looks like Carly Blado.
Yep. You said my name right. Hi guys. Great talk so far. Really enjoyed everything. You guys kind of just answered my question with this the last guy that was talking there. Me and my brother have 47.5 acres, and we've been talking to a logger about coming in and logging and maybe making our woods a little more habitatable. And it's kind of raising some questions between us and how, his opinion versus maybe your opinion would be. A lot of things that he said, it makes sense to me what you guys are saying about how to manage your forests better for habitat. And that's something that you guys help and guide with, I guess you could say, when you come out and do a visit to the property, as being part of the program. So I know my neighbor might be interested in enrolling with us. And he's got a little over 100 acres, and he's been doing a lot of food plots and I guess kind of winging it per se and not really knowing what he's doing. But I think we need a little more guidance in our neighborhood, and we have a couple people that might be interested in joining us. So hopefully I can get this going with you guys. It seems like a pretty good program.
Hi, Bob. Can I take this one?
Sure.
Yeah, you're not alone. A lot of folks feel that way, and I'd feel that way if I didn't have the education and the background that I do. My family is the same way. We bought acreage a few years back, and they were all confused on what the next steps were and how to do things, and luckily they had me to walk through that process. And the DMAP program is invaluable. I mean, it's a great tool, and like I said, it gives you the roadmap. It helps point out things on your property that will make it better, not only for deer but all species of wildlife. And I can speak for the other deer biologists. We're deer nerds, man. We love this stuff. We see the habitat. We like to take that habitat and blend it to what your guys's interests are and what your goals and objectives are for the property. So if it's something for you to think about and to talk to those individuals, your neighbors and stuff, I mean, you can always feel free to reach out and have a phone conversation with us also and get those guys on the phone. And as you can see, I mean, I'll talk with anybody at any time about this stuff. This is what we love to do.
Awesome. And our biggest problem on our property was 20 years ago. We used to have deer like flies in there and nice bucks. And in the last 10 years, we just haven't had any deer, very few. And we're kind of wondering like what's going on, what's changed. Well, agriculture has changed for one in our area. So, the deer kind of like to go where agriculture is in our particular area. But I mean, the woods have changed also in the last 20 years also. So, how do we and better the woods for the habitat of the animals is kind of what our goal and objective is, so I think you guys would be able to really help us if we can get this together and get you guys out.
Great. Yeah. And those recommendations that Matt was talking about, our plans are pretty simple. Here's a recommendation and here's where you should do it. And they range from very small things, and Matt's very good at picking up the small things that you could do, even if you're just visiting your property for the weekend or whatever, small projects that you can start with. And Matt hit it right on hit the nail on the head, don't overdo it, small bites, and, just keep plugging away. All right. Let's go to David Broach.
Yeah, Bob, thanks.
Sure.
It sounds like the site visits are pretty comprehensive, and the analysis of the reports that come out of it are pretty detailed. Can you give me an idea what the length of the site visit would be? Because obviously we'd want to be there and get some others there as well. We would be traveling quite a ways away because we're up in extreme northern Wisconsin, up north of Iron River.
Sure. How about Eric? I want to hear from other people. How about Eric Canania? Eric, I don't see on my screen, but are you out there? I'll let you answer this if you can. Okay.
Hi, Bob. Sorry, I'm busy answering the chat questions, so I haven't really been paying attention to the speaking. Unfortunately, could you repeat the question?
Yeah, he was asking about how much time to expect for the site visit.
Yeah, so I think the site visit time duration really varies between biologist and biologist, as well as property to property. I, for one, have spent almost all day on a property, depending on the size and maybe the complexity, as well as the landowner's interest. And I think I may have heard you said that you're an absentee landowner, so it takes you some time to get to the property. So in that case, If you're exerting a lot of effort to make that drive, then I think that's something you can convey with the biologist and probably get more time out of it. So it really depends, but like I said, I've done anything from all day site visits almost to 2-hour visits if that's what it called for.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Yep.
Hey, Bob, we have a question in the chat. I think that would be a good one to get to.
Okay.
Could you talk about our partnership and with getting cost share for brush management and that sort of thing with other
other-
folks,
Yeah.
with
So
other programs? Yep.
Yep. One of the things we've done in the past for cost share, and the DMAP program doesn't necessarily come with cost share or grant money or anything like that for cooperators to do habitat work. That's something I think we'd like to have in the future, and something we can be working on, but we don't have that right now. And so the program really connects you if you're interested in those programs. It's an entry door into the world of wildlife management, habitat management. But we would then put you in contact with your local NRCS office or their biologists, who call farm bill biologists, that are very familiar with the farm bill programs and cost share programs that are available. So I think at that point, if that's something you're interested, we would connect you with them, and away you go. And I know a number of DMAP cooperators, level 1, that have just, kind of brand new to all this, have really taken advantage of the opportunities that have come their way. This program, like many others, are as much as you're going to get out of it what you put into it, and that's fine. If you want to just kind of watch from a distance, that's fine. But if you want to get really involved, you have lots of resources to be able to do that.
You're sitting on my leg bolt.
All right, let's go to looks like Mr. Brunig.
Yeah, hey, the question I got, Bob, is I own 50 acres. I own 90 acres total, 50 in Sauk County, that is enrolled in the MFL program. And I'm curious as to what the overlap is with the MFL and with your program.
Sure, great question. And I think I'm probably maybe the best one to answer that. Last time I looked, it was around 50 to 60% of DMAP cooperators are also enrolled in MFL. And for those of you that don't know, that's the Managed Forest Law Program. You basically get tax incentives for following a forest plan for your timber. And this program, works cooperatively with that. Obviously, the MFL plans and things that you have in place for your property trump any DMAP plans, and you have to follow those. You're getting tax and breaks to do it. But we'll focus on, and we'll know you're in the MFL program. So, on a site visit or in a management plan, it'll focus on other things that may not be in your MFL plan that you can do, improving, habitat, soft mast and shrubs for wildlife, forest openings, things of that nature that aren't going to affect your involvement with MFL. This will complement that.
Okay, so I've been through the mandatory forestry and the timbering and through the invasive species, and we're probably 17 years into the 25-year program. So is it worth it looking at your program, or should I just stay with what I'm doing?
Well, I think it depends on your level of satisfaction with what you're seeing in your woods. I've seen MFL plans, of course, those are written by private foresters, and very knowledgeable, they know what they're doing. But some MFL plans are include wildlife benefits and recommendations that may enhance the property for wildlife, and others don't. And so I think it really depends on what your plan says, and if your level of satisfaction with what you're seeing out there, and it doesn't hurt to have a biologist and a DNR forester, for that matter, take a look at it and see if there's other opportunities that aren't going to affect your participation in MFL.
Sure. All right, thank you.
Yep. All right. Next hand looks like Logan Amburn.
Yes, hi. We own about 240 acres and we are a little bit more private. I don't think we're going to be that property that you see hosting workshops or anything like that. And so I think we're pretty clear on the benefits of the program to us. They're very applicable to what we're looking for, but some of our concerns are what the DNR is getting out of the program, what's coming back to you, what's your guys' incentive for providing this to us, and how are you using that information?
Sure. I think I'm probably the best one to answer that. What's in it for us, and I mentioned earlier, we want to help the wildlife of our state, and we know that a lot of that wildlife lives on private lands. And so I shared this on a radio interview I did the other day. They were asking about why is so much interest in the program, and I think people in Wisconsin are pretty conservation minded, and we like our wildlife and we want to do good things for it. So I think that's one of the things that the department is getting from this is assistance in managing the wildlife that we all enjoy. The other benefits for us are we're getting to know you, and that's good. As a state agency and department employees, we work for you at some level, and we want to be relevant in your eyes as well. And so if we can be of service to you, that's really important to us, and we want to make sure we do that. The other thing I think you were asking about is the information that we receive, and one of the things in DMAP is, as I mentioned, you can collect data on the deer you harvest, the wildlife observations that you have, and enter that into the database. And right now, that's largely for your benefit. And maybe if we get slow on questions, I'll share a report, but a lot of that's for your benefit. For example, if you're recording wildlife observations that you're seeing on your property, maybe it's before and after a habitat treatment. So, here we've been tracking drumming male grouse, in the springtime, and now we did this clear cut, and 3 years later, holy cow, we got triple the number of grouse that we had, that kind of thing. You can track things over time if that's your interest. But other than that, the information is at least right now is really of value mostly to you. We had thoughts at one time that we could engage DMAP cooperators to collect data on the deer you harvest. Maybe it's the weights or whatnot, and try to relate that to habitat quality and use it at a larger scale. And right now that hasn't panned out for us, and we're not asking cooperators to collect data on something that we're not going to use anyway. So it's more for your benefit, at least right now.
So the program on a whole is pretty altruistic, and it doesn't have a larger role in the DNR for any reporting or any information on, I guess, the larger whole of the DNR. It's just kind of thing.
What, it's just kind of a what?
It kind of its own little thing, like just a service provided with not much coming back to you guys in the way of hard.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's a private, I gotcha. It's a private lands program really to help landowners. Certainly if in the future, if it develops where, hey, this is a piece of information we need, and by golly, the DMAP cooperators are great people to do that with, we will ask you if you want to participate in that. It won't be required, from the program. And
okay.
And so we call those, citizen science opportunities for those of you that have maybe been in DMAP for a while. James, you probably participated a couple of years ago. We had a research project where we were looking at habitat quality and deer condition, and we were working with DMAP cooperators to collect that data. So that was something they signed up to participate in. we gave some training and cover it at DMAP workshops. And then cooperators, James, you could probably help me out if you want to unmute. They weighed and took some measurements on the deer and pictures of the jaws. I'll let you, James, if you want to elaborate a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah, it was a volunteer program, like Bob said. And what they did, I think 2 summers they came out. I can't remember her name, but she came up with the DNR and did, they make appointments to make sure everything's okay. And they did some browse studies and some other, looking at some of the preferred species, the plant species that were being eaten, and things like that. And then part of the program was the deer that we took observation data when we were hunting on the stand, how many deer we saw, if it was a doe fawn, unknown, if it was a antlered buck, and kept the number of hours we hunted and things like that. So they used that data. From that, I think, Bob, you're calculating fawn to doe ratio, maybe buck to doe ratios of the area. And then, we weighed all the deer. We took pictures of the heart, and they looked at the fat around the heart to see how healthy the deer was. We took kidneys. We took pictures of the kidneys as well, and they were looking at the fat on the kidneys. We saved the jaw bones and had the jaw bones aged. We actually it was really nice. I practiced at aging the deer with the jawbone, looking at the teeth wear method, but we were able to send our teeth in for free, part of the program, to get an accurate estimation of the age of the deer. And then they did, was it 2 or 3 years we did that? And
Yep.
It was really nice to get back all the information, compare how your deer in your area compare to deer throughout the state, with all the different data that they collected. It was like I said, it was volunteer too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, thanks, James. And that's one example. Right now we got a PhD student out of Madison that some of you might have heard from, who's reaching out to cooperatives and finding out from them what works, what doesn't work, what can we do better. And again, that's voluntary, but some interesting information that in programs that you can get involved with. One thing I guess I'll mention along those lines too is if you enroll at level 3 with 640 acres or more, you get a camera, not to keep, but a camera from the trail camera to monitor as part of our Snapshot Wisconsin program. And so that's a whole nother project or program that we have that is monitoring wildlife abundance across the state. So a little benefit there for those folks. But any more questions? I don't see any more hands raised. Matt, I'll check with you if you. Oh, go ahead.
I have a property that is tied up. Part of it's tied up in a conservation easement, and I'm wondering, would this program help us to qualify for a forestry plan, as this easement requires for any hinge cutting?
Yeah, it's a good question. The DMAP management plans right now do not count as a forest stewardship plan or an MFL plan, to Mr. Bruning's question earlier. So they're just a pretty basic plan for your property. They don't carry that kind of weight that some of those cost share programs would be looking for.
Thank you.
Bob?
Yep.
Eric Larson speaking. How are you tonight?
Hi, I'm good, Eric. Hi.
Good, thanks. I have a couple questions. We have a property, 320 contiguous acres up in Washburn County. And we bought the property in 2002 and put it in an MFL at that time. So we're already 19 years through our 25-year period. I wish we would have signed up for 50, but we only signed up for 25. We'll re-sign up again. But here's my question. We had our last cutting. There's a couple things. First of all, I signed up on February 3rd, and I haven't heard anything back. I guess you guys go through an approval process once you sign up. Is that correct? And how long should I be expecting to wait to get approved for for DMAP?
Yeah, oh, it's a great question, Eric, and yeah, thanks for asking. The way the automated system we have and the way it works is when you enroll, you should receive an auto email coming back saying, "Hey, welcome to the program. Thanks for joining." And especially if you enroll at level 2 or 3, well,
Yes.
you'll get it at any level, but at level 2 or 3, this is what happens. You'll get
Okay.
that email. You're in the program. Then after March 1st, which is our deadline for enrollment, so we can start planning. It'll take a little while to do that, but usually by the early April, we'll have our things in place, and we will go in and approve you then in the database. And when that does it, that's what triggers you, Eric, you'll get a message saying, "Hey, you got to pay your enrollment fee."
Okay.
So that way, in the odd chance that we can't get you a site visit this year, we're not asking you to pay. I
Okay.
always kind of believe you get, if you're going to pay something, you should get something in return. And so we just make sure that you're going to pay when we know we're going to be able to provide you a site visit. So you should hear something
Okay.
on that in April.
So the only email I got, and I got it back the next day, it was a DMAP cooperator update, and it said, "Greetings, DMAP cooperator."
Yep.
So I'm
Oh,
assuming then that means that we're a cooperator.
yeah. Yeah. I thought you should have gotten an automatic email right away, kind of auto triggered.
Oh,
But
yeah,
what
no,
you got, okay, what you got the next day, Eric, was one of the kind of monthly
Got it.
updates that I send. So it
Got
just
it.
was a matter of timing on that.
Got it. Okay, so another, just a few other continuing follow-ups here. So we've been in MFL for a long time. We love it. As I said earlier, our last cutting was 2017. We really do like, the combination of a really young forest, kind of the whole thing. We've seen our populations over the last 17 years just explode, and we really started to manage the property for grouse. But it doesn't matter what you manage it for whatever species, whether it's a bird or it has hooves and legs, it helps everything. So my question is here, do you guys coordinate with the MFL plans? What I'd like to know is, can we optimize what you folks are doing along with our MFL plan? And is there any coordination between the two groups?
Yeah, I think that's a similar question to what Mr. Burning had earlier, Eric, but so you have your MFL plan in place. And when you sign up for DMAP, we ask you, are you in the
Right.
MFL? And you
Yep.
kind of self-select yourself.
Correct.
So if you've done that,
Yep.
we can see your MFL plan. That
Got it.
we can view that.
Okay.
And so then again, we can't recommend anything different than what's in your MFL plan, because that's much
Yep.
more legal than what the DMAP program.
Correct.
So, but what our DMAP plan would work around the fringes of that with what's allowable and
see.
provide, and it's more focused on wildlife habitat.
Right.
And again, some FL plans are more wildlife friendly than others, and we would just work around whatever's in your MFL plan.
Okay, so the biologist that I met the last time we had a cutting, I did meet our forester, etc. I think it's been the same one for a couple cuttings, but a few years ago we started noticing some buckthorn, on the property, and I go after that buckthorn as soon as I see it. I go after it like a coyote goes after a cottontail, right? I get that stuff cut out as quickly as I can, but I really don't know the extent of what we have and if there's other invasive species. And I think that would fall under you guys as opposed to MFL, an MFL plan. And then would the biologists also know how to help us, manage the deer herd? And we seem to be getting a lot of similar size bucks and in larger quantities. A lot of 8-pointers that, for example, we had 13 or 14 different ones that I saw last year, all about the same size. and we know that that's probably got to get managed out somehow. Would that fall under how you guys would help us manage the deer herd as well in the program?
Yeah, good questions. A couple things I got to remember I want to address with your statements there, but yeah, so the recommendations that you would get in a management plan, can include habitat, but as in my opening statements, deer influence habitat, and too many deer is not a good thing
Right.
for your forest and for the habitat. And so some of the recommendations could be, and Matt or James, I guess, commented on before, could include recommendations for deer harvest as well. And,
Okay.
I know in those situations in the South where I've done site visits and there's no regeneration occurring and it looks like a park, you talk to the landowner about how many, and it's not a forced discussion, and it's not you have to do this kind of thing, but you might say, well, how many does do you usually shoot out here? And if they say 3 or whatever, I'm just picking a number.
Yep.
You could say, well, you know what? There's not much growing here. You probably have a lot of deer in the area, or something else is going on. It's not always a deer's fault, but we can issue tags and, hey, why don't you try shooting 6 deer next year or whatever,
Yeah.
But it's just kind of getting them comfortable with shooting those deer and seeing what's happening on their property.
Yeah, well, we aggressively food plotted the property very aggressively. Maybe we need to food plot it less aggressively. Maybe we're drawing too much into the property too. And, that's all stuff that we don't know that much about. We know how to food plot very well. We're very good at that. Of course, I'm always open for recommendations on it, but now what we have to understand, I have to understand, is what's been the impact of that now for the last 7-8 years. And maybe I'm doing too much, or so I think that would be a big benefit for me particularly. What's going on with the deer via our food plotting, and what should we be doing different?
Sure. Another thought that comes to mind for working with your neighbors, and thinking of the folks that have too many deer, know they have too many deer, want fewer deer, whatever. Deer densities vary greatly. They are not evenly distributed on the landscape, and that's true within a mile or two.
Right.
And you're all probably familiar with your areas where you can, there's deer over here, and go a mile down the road and there aren't any deer there. And
Right.
So that landowner says, I got too many. And this landowner says, man, I don't see any deer. And so a nice benefit in that respect could be to, well, number one, learn from the one that's got too many deer. What are they doing? Maybe replicate that on your property and try to distribute those deer even a little bit more evenly. And so another benefit there. And then the last thing I wanted to share too, just because Eric said something made me think about it. If you enroll in DMAP and you have a management plan, after 3 years, you can choose to re-enroll at that level, or as I mentioned before, go to level 1. If you re-enroll at that level, you will get another site visit from the biologist and the forester. And so
Okay.
that's more of at that point, they're not writing the management plan. It's more of a check-in on the plan. Hey, how are things going? Where are you struggling with? In some cases, we have landowners that have said, I got it all done. Now what? So you come up with more stuff to do on the property. So it's another check-in on your management plan. And
so my final question here is $75 for a level 2 participation, and I think it's $100 for level 3. I can't remember, 640 or higher.
Yeah.
So
150.
Are you trying to become big enough to be self-sufficient in terms of your own? Can you run your program without additional DNR financing, and is there an objective to maybe be a self-contained unit within DNI. I'm assuming you receive funding, but I'm just curious of what the goals of your program are.
Yeah, you know, the financial aspects of the enrollment fee, and I explained earlier some of the ways that we spend that. It's mostly on outreach and communication and the signs and exclosures, and you know, we really try to put that back into things that benefit cooperators. Um, at those levels that we're charging 75 and 150, in no way come close to funding the program
Right.
when you factor in staff time and gas and, you know, mileage and all of that. And so I wasn't around to set those prices or set the fees, Eric, but I think the idea is they wanted the landowners to have some skin in the game as well. You know, you tend to pay more attention maybe to something that you're financially invested a little bit in. And so that's really the intent. Oh, the other thing, you know, the workshops that we put on, many of those we pay for, you know, with that enrollment fee money. So it's really there to support the program. And, you know, our time, and, you know, we're funded on license fees and Pittman Robertson money, mostly. And again, as I mentioned before, you know, a lot of wildlife lives on private land. And so we want to work with you to help, you know, the wildlife that we all think we all enjoy.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that's our incentive. Yep.
Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it.
Yep. You bet. I see another hand, David Brouch.
Yeah, I've got a question if whether or not you've ever had to help any of the cooperators deal with problems with wolves. We know we've got at least 2 to 3 that come and go based on the trail cams that we have out from, call it July till, you know, November. And when we started seeing those wolves showing up probably 8-10 years ago, that's when we started to notice that our deer population went down significantly. And we know right now, this year we had, you know, a smaller one, but we had a pretty large one on there as well. Didn't know if you could speak to that at all.
Yeah, I can speak to that, David. You know, wolves, I mean, until January 4th, we're on the endangered species list. And so, you know, with species that are listed, there isn't anything we can do about it from that respect. Of course, if there's human health and safety issues, that's a different story, but just having them, you know, on your property. And so now they're delisted currently. We're planning for a season this fall. There's nothing specifically that we can do to help you with wolves. Of course, if it's a legally hunted species, you know, you're welcome to harvest those animals on your property or property you have permission on at your will. But we don't offer anything, you know, specific in that respect. One thing that came to mind though that I will share, and it could be linked to wolves or bear or deer, whatever hunted species. We put together a kind of a side program for DMAP cooperators, and it's providing mentored hunting and trapping opportunities on your property. It's something you can coordinate with me, or I can put you in touch with a group. But many cooperators provide, you know, whether it's youth deer hunting or novice mentored hunts on their property for deer or turkeys or whatever. And I have a few groups that I work with that I can put you in touch with, and that's really a feel good. You know, gives you that warm feeling inside that you're doing good things for people that maybe don't have the opportunities that you do or you did, you know, when you were younger. And so, you know, we had cooperators provide. Well, you heard Steve's opening comments on the wheelchair hunts that he provides, but we've had the cooperators provide, you know, opportunities for people with disabilities to hunt. We've had some youth hunts, and the cool thing about that is I got one of the cooperators right down here. Lots of deer on the property, recognized it, needs to harvest some antlerless deer. wasn't that interested in doing it himself. And so we lined up working with the Kids and Mentors Outdoors program. We lined up a weekend of hunting, and the kids went out there, and I think they harvested like 6 or 7 does. And it's all at the control of the landowner, right? They harvested 6 or 7 does out there. Many of those kids, it was their first deer. You can all remember your first deer, pretty exciting. Tremendous opportunity. And part of that program too, we asked landowners could ask for a work day. And so if you're going to allow the kids or whoever to hunt out there, there's something they can pay back in return. And so with that landowner, we did it. We came back in the spring, and the kids that hunted out there came back. And, you know, these are 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. But they stacked some wood for them. They cleared some trails for them. We had a little lunch with the kids. And then actually I gave a little bit of a spiel on, landowner respect. And, you know, it's important for these young kids to know that, you know, having access like that doesn't come easy, and you need to have landowner respect to do it. So it was kind of a nice lesson learned for them as well. So just another kind of a side program that some people participate in. I see another question from Matt. Peja.
Hello. My question was, what was the range? I don't know if it was in square miles that you could make your 160 with other landowners.
Yeah, we asked that they're within, they don't have to be contiguous, Matt, but within a half mile of each other. So as long as the boundaries are within a half mile of each other. Again, we had to draw a line somewhere. The idea is you're working together on habitat and deer management. And so we felt that, you know, a half mile was acceptable for that. That answer your question, Matt?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions out there? I don't see any hands. Matt, Esser, anything in the chat, or Eric?
Yeah, I'll defer to Eric. My computer actually froze up and crashed there, so I had to reboot and get back on. So I'll defer to Eric.
Eric?
Yeah, sorry, just finishing up finish up a message here. So you're asking if there are any unanswered questions in the chat?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
That's okay, Eric. We'll
I'm typing as fast as I can.
One that seems to be coming up a lot, Bob, is being able to put landowners in touch with other either agencies or specialists within the DNR that can help them with different parts of their properties, whether it be wetlands, agriculture, or a conservation reserve program as well. So maybe talk a little bit about your partnerships or that too.
Yeah, well, certainly within the DNR, you know, there's different areas of specialty, whether it's, you know, wetland zoning or, you know, navigable waterways and stuff like that, you know, and that might not be the expertise of our biologist or forester, but they certainly know their local colleagues that can help out in those areas. And so again, it's a good foot in the door to get to know your local department staff. As far as the other programs that might apply in different situations, our staff are pretty connected to representatives, you know, that again might not be DNR programs. They might be Fish and Wildlife Service programs or NRCS programs. They'll know the right person to get you in that direction. So they have those contacts. It's, you know, this wildlife management world is a pretty small community. And so in the state here, many of us know each other, and I'm sure they can get you pointed in the right direction.
Bob, I'm not sure if, this is John Walsh calling. I'm not sure if you've had a big problem with people not being able to attend. I have seen the participation over, over 300 or 300. And I have personally been knocked off a couple of times and have had to wait to get back on until that number was below 300. I just watched a webinar on Zoom the other day, and I'm not sure what level you're at, but there is at the bottom level, the number of participants is 300, unless you're a paying person. So that might just be something to think about in the future. I'm not sure how big a problem it was for everybody else. I had heard that there were people that were not able to get on, and for a while, but just food for thought.
Yeah, no, John, I appreciate that update. I've been talking, we've been doing this. And this is the first time that we've done a public Zoom on DMAP, and so we're learning as we go. And in our at least exclusive DMAP workshops like this, we've had 40 or 50 people, so we didn't know what to expect. We got over 300, and you're right, our capacity was 300. So we are recording this, and so we'll be sure to share that, John. Maybe we'll do another one if, with this level of interest. I'm really happy to see that. I did not think we'd get 300 people or more. So thanks for your patience with that, John, and thanks for bringing that up.
Hey, Bob, this is Eric.
Matt, Bob, can you hear me?
Yes, Andy, go ahead.
I have one question. I'm so sorry that I don't know if I'm using this technology correctly, but one of the questions that I have, Matt Esser was very, very helpful. And one of my friends and one of my other friends is here with me tonight, Randy Carl's property, and he's very familiar. And so my question again is to just reiterate, because I'm working on the MFL program. Now that my timber has been harvested and the number of things that they are recommending, and I just want you to go over one more time how that interacts with what your recommendations are. You've mentioned that, of course, the recommendations of the MFL is a program that you can't supersede, but I really would like to know how we can tie this together. If you can do that one more time, I would really appreciate it.
Well, maybe Matt, do you want to answer that? I've answered it in a different way, maybe a couple times, but if they're familiar, and I know Randy's familiar with you, maybe you want to answer that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had the privilege to write hundreds of MFL plans in my former life. So once the MFL plan is written for your property, I'll read the plan, or whoever's out on your property will take a look at the plan. And obviously the MFL plan, like you said, supersedes, the management recommendations of the DMAP. However, that's the interface between the two is us. And we can help blend those two and give you the advice, with the harvest, with the harvest techniques, with the silviculture, and point out certain things where, say a harvest is supposed to be done, like I did out at Randy's, and say, hey, you could really do this to accentuate this aspect of your property. And by meeting with the landowner and reading that managed forest law plan, you're balancing wildlife with the forestry. And that's what it's all about. We can't manage wildlife without forestry. For the most part, can't manage forestry without wildlife. They're kind of, they coexist. And to have that is the best of both worlds. So yes, the MFL plan, it's a long-winded answer, but the MFL plan does take precedent. But you definitely can blend the two, and the DNR forester or the MFL forester is more than willing to work on make it as wildlife friendly as they can. And when your MFL plan is written, they ask you, and what's your main goal? And if wildlife is one of them, that's in your MFL plan.
So Matt, the key question then is, should I meet with you first before, because they're pushed back until February, I think February, March. Should I meet with you first to kind of get an kind of an overview of what we're looking at, or should I meet with them or in conjunction? I'm sure it's not going to be in a conjunction, but would it be beneficial to meet with you first before the final? I met with the forester, but apparently there's another person there for invasive species. So should I meet with you first, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's completely up to you. I've done it both ways, obviously. In conjunction would be great, because then get to bounce ideas off each other, the forester and me and myself, and we get to work on things together. But if it doesn't work in conjunction, that's fine also. I send emails to the forester that you work with, the local county forester, and tell them that I'm working with you with the DMAP program and any ideas or thoughts that they may have. So even if we don't meet, I'd still touch base with those folks, and a lot of times I already know who they are. So it's a completely up to you, and we'll make it work either way.
That's a perfect answer. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hey,
One
Bob.
thing, Eric, one thing too, it came to mind. I know in some cases, people say, oh, I'm in the MFL program, I'm locked in 25 years. There's been situations because the DNR forester is involved in the DMAP program, the site visits, where they can make edits to your MFL plan.
I think we lost Bob.
Yep. Does anybody else? Bob, I think you froze up. Can you guys hear me?
I got you, Matt.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I kind of reiterate what Andy said. I mean, we have also been MFL for quite a while, and I'd love to see coordination between our MFL program and you guys. I mean, if there's ways to make it better, I don't know why we couldn't modify on the site to make that work. I mean, that was the first thing I thought about when I saw your program come across in an email. I said, oh my gosh, maybe we can really make this even better. So, thank you, Andy, for your comments.
And this is Mr. Brining again. I've had just great success with MFL and combining harvesting and working with the DNR. They're very welcome to work with us. So if you're in the MFL program, I'm telling you, they'll do whatever it takes to make it work.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the DNR foresters are great. Like I said, we work together all the time, and their goal is to get the harvest and the management done on the properties, and our goal is to get the harvest and the management done on those properties, and blending of the two. I know a lot of foresters that are just as passionate and great, avid outdoorsmen as and hunters as they are foresters. So they wear both hats for sure.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet. I'm sure Bob's going to be trying to get on again, Wes, if you could keep an eye out for him.
Keeping an eye out. In the meantime, looks like David's got another question up there.
All right, go ahead, David. No, you're on mute. There you go.
Can you, maybe you already said this, can you repeat, if you did, where and when this recording will be posted? Because I've had a number of people who texted me who weren't able to get on and would love to view this.
Yeah, and I think we're working out those details. I saw Eric gave an answer on the chat, and I gave some too. We'll work that out with Bob, and once that location is figured out, Wes, do you know, maybe we'll post it right on the DMAP webpage on our DNR site. But once we do, Bob will let everybody know.
I think keeping an eye on the DMAP page probably by early next week, I think. That makes the most sense, at least to me. It looks like Bob's going to reconnect here, so we can double check with him. He'll have the final say on that. Bob, are you back?
If Bob's not back, I'll make the executive decision. We're putting it on the DMAP webpage.
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yep, we have you, Bob.
I'm good, Matt. You go ahead and make decisions. That's fine with me.
That's good that we were taking this down a dark path here. I'm glad you're back.
Sorry, my internet dropped, so I don't know where you were at, but we
Bob,
could start wrapping her down here too. We've gone, past 8:30. Good discussion, but we could start shutting her down too. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll.
Hey, Bob, I've got one question for you.
Yeah, Trent.
I'm a level 2 right now. I've got 2 of my neighbors that are interested in getting on board. One of them's easy. It's a 30-acre chunk that we can add on. My other neighbors have about 300 acres. They just put their property, because it's 2 brothers, as an LLC. How does that work? Are they still able to get in, or is that considered a business at that point?
Yeah, I think, we try to be inclusive instead of exclusive. So yeah, we have LLCs, enroll in the program, join cooperatives. We just need to make sure that when you sign up, that the owner of the land, or in that case, the business representative approves.
Yep.
That's one thing I could share too. Some people say, well, I hunt on a property, I don't own the land. If that landowner approves to enroll in the program, they can identify you as their authorized representative, and essentially you're participating on their behalf. And so that's a nice opportunity for somebody that doesn't own land to, if they have a willing landowner, whether it's grandpa or whoever, it's a nice way for them to be involved.
As a group, we have to appoint one person as the spokesperson for that group. Is that correct?
Yeah. So for when there's a group cooperative, we ask you to identify a primary contact, and that person is our point person for the cooperative, and they're responsible for communicating with the other landowners in the cooperative. For the department, we're just going to go to one person. We don't want to have to communicate with 10 people. And so, there is some responsibility with that. And like I mentioned, with those cooperatives, they really work well and Matt's got some good ones in his area. They really work well when you have 2 or 3 at least really engaged landowners that want to make it happen and see the benefits of it. If it's loosely put together, they usually don't go as well. And Matt or Eric or Kurt or myself, we're not going to be the ones pushing the cooperative. We're there to help and assist, but it takes some initiative from those cooperative leaders.
Thanks, Bob.
I got your message too, Trent. I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you. Because I got stuff messed up on the re-enrollment side now.
Okay. All right.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other burning questions? Otherwise, we'll start to wind down. Last call. All right. Very good. We're going to wind down and just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. Thank Matt and Eric and Wes for their help with the chat and the answers. Thank Christina and Steve and James for sharing your experience with DMAP. This program, you guys are the ones that sell the program. I mean, most people will listen to their friends and family members maybe before they listen to the department on a program. And so you guys spending your time with us tonight was really, really important, and wanted to thank you for that.